Hello, everyone. And Jehovah's Witnesses are too afraid of COVID to benefit from COVID. Pretty much if you grew up Jehovah's Witnesses or if you had any experience with them, you know that any disaster in society they would use as a selling point to sell their literature. Pretty much any disaster, if there was a situation where there weren't very many jobs, well, they would go to everyone's door and say, hey, wouldn't it be nice if everyone had work, satisfying work? Of course, the person's going to say yes. And then they're going to go into, well, I've got this watchtower and it's got that on the cover. Come to the Kingdom Hall. We'll teach you about it. Or 9/11. Wouldn't it be nice if we lived in a world where everybody felt secure? Of course, the person's going to say, yeah. Then they show you the magazine. Hey, here's 9/11. The tower's coming down. Wouldn't you like peace and security? Come to the Kingdom Hall. We'll teach you about it. So with COVID, if Jehovah's Witnesses weren't so afraid of COVID, they would be going crazy right now. They'd be at everybody's door with a watchtower with a big picture of a COVID virus, and they would be passing them bad boys around. I guarantee you they would. You know they would. You know they would be passing those magazines around. You know that would be the focal point of Watchtower right now. Is to try to take advantage of people's insecurities. They would come to the door and say, hey, wouldn't we love to live in a world where we weren't worried about pandemics or sickness or even death? Well, let me show you this. It says it in the Watchtower, so it must be true. Come to the Kingdom Hall and we'll teach you about it. But Watchtower at a time where numbers are probably at record lows. I mean, as far as bringing new people in, they haven't been a factor in a long time. And now you have a situation that they normally would benefit from. This is one of those religions that benefit off people's fears. They feed on your fear. If you're afraid of something, they find out what that is, and then they come to your door and say that they have the solution to it. Whatever you're afraid of, or whatever upsets you, anything that upsets you, they'll come to your door. If you're upset about something that happened in your church, they'll come to your door and say, well, we don't do those things. Whatever it is, they're trying to be the perfect counter to whatever ails you. Watchtower is just selling, fear. They're selling, and they can't sell COVID. And here's the thing. They're trying to write letters, and then they'll send those letters out to people. But think about it. Who is going to get a letter, read the letter, and then join a cult? Because with COVID, they're not in physical contact with people. They're not like physically going to people's doors, from my understanding. So who, based off of a letter that they get with the Watchtower, is going to read that Watchtower and then hop on JW dot whatever and watch those boring, crazy broadcasts and then just join based off of that? That should be darn near impossible. Like when Watchtower would pile magazines and laundromats, who's going to go to wash their clothes, look at a magazine, and then just join the cult based off of that? I don't think anybody is. I've learned since I've been in San Antonio that, you got people that come from other countries, and like Mexico, for example, But you got people that come from all kinds of different countries, and we take our educational system for granted sometimes. For granted in the sense that we figure everybody has at least had. Then you fill in the blank. We figure everybody has at least had middle school, per se. If you live in America, you may not know anybody. Or if you and your family were all born and raised in America, you may not know anybody that ain't even been to middle school. They may have dropped out of high school. They may, but there's some kind of a minimal that you just assume everybody had. But you got people coming from different countries to America, Mexico, other places. They ain't even had middle school. They ain't had no education. They ain't even going to join Watchtower based off of a magazine that came in their mailbox. They might look it up online. They may say, what is this? Let me Google this. And then they're going to figure it out, and then they're not going to want to have anything to do with it. There's no way Watchtower is getting people to join based off of putting a magazine in a letter, writing a little letter, and then sending it to somebody's house. There's no way. There's no way. You have to be, and I'm talking about people with zero education. I don't even think they would join. But yeah, since I've been to San Antonio, I've been trying to learn people's how they act socially. Like there's culture shock when you come to a different city. And San Antonio has a lot of people from other ethnicities. And there's definitely differences in how people act. And when you think about the fact that some things that you just assume people have had, like middle school education, some people hadn't even had that. Well, then that explains some of the social behavior, because in school you learn how to behave around other kids. If you didn't even have that, then how in the world are you going to know how to behave around adults if you ain't never even learned how to behave around people as kids? Like, so that explains a lot. If you ever come here, just keep that in mind. That's not everybody, but some people, you'll notice some things. But just keep in mind, they ain't even have middle school, so how are they supposed to know? They don't know no better. Like outside right now, I think somebody's messing around with somebody's fucking around with a damn grocery cart. That shit was out there the other day, and I keep hearing that shit rattling around like somebody pushing around a goddamn grocery cart. I don't know what the hell, but you can't assume people know better. But I don't think Watchtower is even going to get that guy, whoever the hell it is, pushing that damn grocery cart outside right now. I don't even think they going to join that religion based off of them putting a magazine in an envelope and putting it in the mail. Can you imagine joining a cult and you ain't physically met nobody in the cult? You ain't physically met none of them. So how are you going to join it? If that happens, you have got to be the dumbest person on the planet. I don't know if y'all can hear it, but somebody pushing the grocery cart or doing something, I can hear that bad boy rattling. And they ain't even joining. So comment down below, let me know what you think. There's letter writing going on. Yeah, they're doing letter writing with a little Watchtower in there. But there's no way somebody's going to join a cult based off a letter they got in the mail and nothing else. They ain't met nobody. Nobody came to their house to try to sell the cult to them. There's no way. But Jehovah's Witnesses, everyone was hit with the biggest pandemic. Like, a lot of us have not been alive through a pandemic. We've never seen this before. And Watchtower would normally use this to capitalize. They would try to scare the mess out of their members and tell them the end of the world is around the corner. And then everybody would start filling up Kingdom Halls. And man, Watchtower has not been able to capitalize. Watchtower has not been able to capitalize and scare people like they did at 9/11. Take my charging cord out of there. So comment down below. Let me know what you think. One of the biggest pandemics we've ever seen. I mean, as far as actually experiencing. A lot of us, I don't think if I did experience one, I was a kid and didn't know what was going on. And Watchtower can't benefit from it. They're losing members. They done shut down halls. If Jehovah was protecting them from a virus, why would they need to shut down halls? That does not make sense. It doesn't make sense. And in the Bible, you had plagues in Egypt. You know, that's what it says. There were plagues in Egypt, and God knew the difference between the people he was aiming at and everybody else. So if we are having a plague, so to speak, how come Jehovah's Witnesses hiding just like everybody else? Jehovah ain't gonna protect y'all from the virus. He can't tell that y'all Jehovah's Witnesses with y'all JW.org lapels on. Why don't you go out with your JW.org lapel? With that, God will know who you are then and protect you from the virus. If y'all are so special, there ain't no other group on the planet that God could be using but you. You're the only ones he would have to protect y'all, because otherwise, if y'all got wiped out from the virus, you wouldn't have no Jehovah's Witnesses. You wouldn't have no Watchtower rights. People that follow Watchtower. People that worship Watchtower. So if God is concerned because he only has one group of people, and there's a pandemic that could wipe out what little numbers he has. Think about this. If God is really focused on Watchtower, and all I got is a few million people, and here there is a pandemic that could wipe out those few million people I got, wouldn't you think he would do something to protect those people so that they ain't got to sit in the house and hide and they can keep preaching? Because a pandemic could last a long time. And y'all know, even Jehovah's Witnesses, you're going to talk to them and they don't even know nobody that joined their cult based off of a Watchtower they put in somebody's mail. You know that's not working. So there is no preaching work going on. You can't call that preaching work putting stuff in people's, or mailing stuff to people's mailbox. I don't mean walking up to somebody's house and putting stuff in the mailbox, because you can't do that. That's not legal. I'm talking about mailing out letters with magazines in it. There's no preaching work going on. For the last year, the preaching work has stopped. You cannot count putting stuff in the mail preaching. You can't count that. You know that's not going to work. You know it's not going to work. Nobody's joining because a Watchtower was in their mailbox. So COVID has shut down the preaching work for like a solid year. You know that is not God's organization. Because the Israelites would not have been afraid of none of them plagues. As serious as they weren't going to be afraid of none of them plagues in Egypt. That's the difference between you have one group of people that's God's people going through a pandemic or a plague versus the truth, which is we don't know that God has one group of people. and nobody else. If he did, a pandemic would reveal who they were, because it'd be the one group of people that was protected from it. And I don't mean protected in the way that Jehovah's Witnesses hide in the house and don't come out. They scared as hell of that. They scared as hell of that pandemic. So the we're God's chosen people thing is out the window. Y'all hiding just like everybody else because you afraid you gonna die. If you was God's chosen people, he wouldn't let y'all freaking die. Can you imagine they ain't but 5,000 JWs because a whole bunch of them died because of the pandemic? How he gonna run Watchtower that way? Right. He can't. He's not running Watchtower. That's why he's not concerned about it. That's why Watchtower's hiding and putting stuff in the mail, pretending like that's the preaching work. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. How is putting stuff in the mail, knowing it's not effective, there's not going to be anyone that joins because of it, the preaching work? Knowing most likely nobody's going to read this stuff. How is that preaching to somebody, putting something in the mailbox or putting something in the in a letter and sending a letter? I don't mean putting it in the mailbox because they're not going. It's illegal. They can't do that. How is that the preaching work? It's not. So then, COVID stopped it. Yes. How is God's chosen people going to be afraid of a plague that in the Bible we could see God could control them? God could control plagues. How is God's people going to be afraid of a plague? This would be the whole opportunity for Jehovah's Witnesses, that cult, to show they're the only ones God's backing. Is by showing that none of them are afraid of the plague, and they go out and they preach and none of them catch it. This would be their freaking opportunity. They finally have the opportunity and they're hiding. They're not God's chosen people. They're just people who joined a cult because they like what they're being told, and it's easier to accept a beautiful lie than the honest truth. So comment down below. Let me know what you think. X Wall Kill Bethelite signing out.